Breaking news, as of this hour, any federal employee working within a diversity, equity, and inclusion department is out of a job. Trump fulfilling a major campaign promise, and he is doing it with alacrity. Tonight, we have exclusive new reporting from two federal employees who have shared with us what's happening. One of them no longer has a job. Neither one of them want to share their names for fear of retribution, but one of them tells us, who lost a job, that Trump's order is, quote, vindictive to people who were just doing their jobs. And a Labor Department employee shared with us an internal email that came out today from a top official at the department about this, which reads in part, quote, these programs divided Americans by race, wasted taxpayer dollars, and resulted in shameful discrimination. Failure to report the information within 10 days may result in adverse consequences. The threat laid out clear.
Trump is really not playing around, guys, because as of 5 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, just days into the Trump administration, DEI has officially been eliminated from the federal government, and all of its offices have been shut down. Employees have been placed on permanent leave, and they will soon likely be fired, right? That's where this is all headed. DEI is no more. It's all thanks to Trump. We'll tell you about it in today's video, as well as the CNN leftist meltdown reactions, whatever, but also the very subversive and shady ways that they're trying to rebrand DEI, right? Keep it around. Bad ideas do not go down easily, but also how this Trump executive order is ensuring that that can't happen, right? That they can't just rebrand DEI and effectively it's done. They can keep trying. We'll tell you about it though. First, folks, do us a big favor. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, and if you're enjoying our content, please make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe if you are new. You subscribing is the #1 way to ensure we can keep doing these videos. Let's get to 400K. We're like 100 subs away, so hit that red button. And with that said, okay, so here is that Trump executive order, reporting here from Lee Ann O'Neill. They're not messing around. All federal DEI offices are to be shut down immediately, and this is the timeline being demanded by now Wednesday, right, at 5 p.m. Notify all DEI office employees that they're on paid leave and cancel all DEI trainings and terminate all DEI contracts by noon on Thursday. Provide a report of all steps taken to end DEI in agency offices, and by 5 p.m. on Friday, provide a written plan on reducing all DEI workforce from the federal government. Here's, by the way, what Trump had to say about the executive order that he signed. I believe it was day 1, maybe day 2. I think it was day 1, though, of his administration. Again, not playing games this time.
What are you citing now?
It's an executive order relating to reforms to the federal workforce, including to the senior executive service.
We're getting rid of all of the cancer. I call it cancer, the cancer caused by the Biden administration.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty accurate way to put it. I don't know what else to say besides that. The American people are tired of this, and finally it's going to be gone from the federal government, according to this Trump executive order, right? Finally, taxpayer dollars will not be completely wasted on trying to promote like hating white people and hating men and basically just subversive far left ideology into the federal government. I mean, that should be pretty common sense. Now, it's important to note that this wave continues as like even before Trump was inaugurated. The FBI announced, for instance, that it would be shutting down its DEI office. Many private sector companies, you know, McDonald's is one of them, but there's a ton of them, right, are ending this DEI practice because not only do they realize it's completely wasteful, but in many cases it's counterproductive, divisive, and actively destructive. But of course, as I brought up in the beginning, and something we all have to be extremely careful about, is what they are currently trying to do, guys, is basically rebrand DEI as something else. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Well, you may remember the term DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, really only started to come up in the past 2 years, because what was the culture war debate about before? Remember something called CRT? You never hear about this anymore, right? Critical race theory. Well, that's initially, right, what the left was calling it. Many Republican states took actions to ban it from being taught in school curriculums, which was a positive. But of course, as I warned back then, you can even probably go find like my really old video videos about it, what they were always going to do, and this is what they always do, is like rebrand the current thing as something else, right? So CRT became DEI, and they basically were still teaching CRT, just not using the official name, the official terminology. And here's a CNN segment actually detailing and celebrating the ways in which currently employees in the federal workforce are trying to save their jobs and save these DEI programs by rebranding or trying to hide basically what's going on from the Trump administration, which is really bad news. But again, in a second, we'll show you how Trump is actually working to actively counter that. But take a listen to that.
The actions that we are seeing by the Trump administration here to roll back all DEI will certainly reverberate into communities throughout the country when you talk about taking away grants and policy programs that benefit many of these underserved communities. One other note on this issue of them asking for call outs for people within these agencies who may have information on federal employees who may have been disguising certain DEI initiatives. We should note CNN reported just last week that there were federal employees within these agencies working to quietly edit job descriptions and policy descriptions because they feared this very day would come, Wolf.
Yeah, they're trying really hard. They're fighting absolutely tooth and nail to make sure that DEI in its own coded way stays around. And why does she bring it up? Because, well, we need the grants. We need the policy program. So in other words, what she is casually admitting there is something that you probably have known for a long time, which is that this whole DEI thing, honestly, is one of the biggest organized grifts and honestly one of the most effective grifts, at least for some time, right, in this country, in American history. Because essentially what has happened here, both in the federal government as well as the private sector and universities and basically everywhere, is, you know, you're making these DEI offices, literally, and they're being paid a lot of money. You know, we talked in our video about the California wildfires, for instance, how the DEI chief officer of the LA Fire Department was making something like, I believe it was $400,000 a year, right? Paying a ton of money to these like random bureaucrats, not just in the government, but also in private sectors and everywhere, to sit around. You call them the DEI officer. They do nothing really of use. They contribute nothing actually to the company or the university or whatever. But, you know, they're just sitting there and occasionally virtue signaling to everyone about like diversity, aka like white people are bad, so and so. And again, the reason they're in such a mass panic about this, honestly, I would argue, is because a lot of money is on the line for them, right? This was an incredibly effective grift for a very long time. You had a bunch of people who are completely unqualified to ever work a real job or actually do anything, just put them in these DEI positions and basically have them, again, just like virtue signal to people for a living and make like hundreds of thousands of dollars in almost all these cases, especially in the case of that LA Fire Department. And that is now coming to an end. So again, what are they trying to do, as I warned you, and why the fight arguably is not over? Trying to rebrand DEI. That's the bad news. However, this is the good news, is that the original actually Trump administration order already has provisions within it to ensure that the subversion here, right, will not be possible. Because the incoming Trump administration already fully expected, and I'd argue maybe even knew, that this is exactly what they were going to try to do. So take a look at this language here, right? No later than 12 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, January 23rd, report all the steps, including a complete list of DEIA offices and any employee who in those offices as of November 5th, 2024, a complete list of all DEI-related agency contracts as of November 5th, 2024, etc. But take a look at this, okay? A list of all contract descriptions or personnel position descriptions that were changed since November 5th, 2024 to obscure their connection to DEI programs, basically, you know, forcing these agencies to actually come out and expose, hey, what was formerly called DEI that was, you know, changed or transferred over, right? We're going to make sure that is also banned as well. You're not going to just basically be able to circumvent this, because oftentimes, you know, when Republicans take these types of actions, for instance, with like banning CRT, one criticism I had of that is like, well, where's the insurance that they're not going to just rebrand it to something else? Well, what you're seeing in this second Trump administration is there's an extra level, you could argue, even of like competence, of effective governing that wasn't around in the Trump administration the first time, because now they're saying, no, we're on to your game. We know exactly what you're up to. You're not going to be able to pull these little funny games on this and expect it to work. And check this out here. So a newly leaked internal memo given to Homeland Homeland Security employees today acknowledges the attempts to conceal DEI programs through coded or imprecise language and instructs them to send evidence of any hidden DEI programs to DEIatruth@opm.gov. Okay, so check this out, right? We're taking steps to close all DEI offices and end all DEI-related contracts in accordance with President Trump's executive orders, etc. But look at this. We are aware of the efforts by some in government to disguise these programs by using coded or imprecise language. If you are aware of a change in any contract description or personnel position since November 5th, 2024, to obscure the connection between the contract or similar DEI ideologies here, please report all facts and circumstances within 10 days. So essentially, they're trying to say to people, look, okay, we're watching you. We have whistleblowers on the inside. Again, you are not going to get away with this. And this is not the only change, obviously, that through early executive orders Trump is making to the federal workforce, because a lot of people are also talking about the fact that he is now mandating all of the federal employees who are working from home to show up in person to come back and work there. Okay, so take a listen.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately.
Now, this is a big deal for very obvious reasons, because when you just take a look at how the federal government operates, definitely there are a lot of random, work from home employees, the employees that work remotely, who really aren't doing anything. Obviously, like that is obviously true. And so the mandate to bring them back to work is, on paper, it's certainly meant to increase the efficiency of the federal government and the federal workforce. But what I would also argue, maybe that's not being talked about, is what you're going to find immediately the moment that you require employees to actually come to work is that a lot of them are just going to leave their jobs. A lot of them are just going to quit because they're like, oh, no, I can't just sit around and do nothing all day and make money. Guess I got to go do something else. That's number one. Even those who do come back to work, you're going to find largely are probably very incompetent, very useless, kind of a common theme in regards to DEI versus this work from home thing. It all comes from the same places in some ways, And keep this in mind as well, guys. This coincides with another one of Trump's day one executive orders, which was a temporary freeze in federal hiring, right? Essentially, the federal government is not going to hire any new employees until we can deeply examine the catastrophic flaws in the structure and do we need these jobs and whatnot. So you're going to see a lot of people leave these positions. No one's going to fill them. And then people are going to start to come to the realization when, the world still wakes up the next morning like, wait a minute, do we really need all these people? So on so many different levels, whether it's cutting DEI or literally just forcing federal employees to come to work, which I would argue is going to thin out a lot of your useless workers to begin with. There is structural change, it would seem, coming to the function of the federal government. And it's crazy because you look at the way the second Trump term has started and kind of what we're looking at, what we're projecting to the future. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But, every 4 years, every president says they're really going to fundamentally change things in America. And it's like, well, things kind of just continue the way they're going, right? Something about this second Trump term especially really does feel different. Like things actually may begin to change. Like they're actually serious about this stuff because, day one, what do we get? Executive order straight up to, in one regard at least, drain the swamp, right? Cut the fat, cut the nonsense, and especially cut the subversion in regards to DEI from the federal government. And I don't know. We'll see where this goes. Hopefully, the attempts to rebrand it don't really work. But again, a very positive development early on in the Trump administration, to say the least. And I'm sure the MAGA base is very happy about it, as are a lot of people outside of MAGA, because as it turns out, the normal American in this country is tired of it. They're tired of the DEI stuff. They're tired of the affirmative action. And that one's for you. Okay, with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.